Order. It's Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and 6:30 p.m. So we would like to have McClintock is going to give us our flag salute today.
Good evening, Board President Phillips, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. My name is Brooke Schulteis, and I am the proud principal of McClintock Elementary School. Joining me tonight is Mr. Scott Robb, assistant principal, and some of our wonderful fifth graders.
Hi, my name is Evelyn, and tonight I brought my mom and dad, Karina, Francisco, and Aiden. Hi, my name is Alea Sparks. Tonight I brought my mom, Maria Cardenas. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for doing that for us. I had a delightful conversation with these two girls who are quite the leaders in their school as they help recognize other kids that are doing positive things at recess and in other ways, and these leaders have been appointed to do that. So that was impressive. Thank you. So can I have a roll call, please? Mrs. Richardson?
Amy Phillips.
Present?
Amanda Brown.
Present.
John Kennedy.
Present.
Steve Norbert.
Present.
Steve Simmons.
Present.
Mason Bird.
Present.
Danica Arena.
Present.
Owen Bergstrom.
Present.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting of October 22nd, 2024. I would entertain a motion.
Board President Phillips, I move to approve the regular board meeting minutes from October 22nd, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the regular board meeting minutes of October 22nd, 2024. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the agenda review, Mrs. Whitney.
There are no additions or changes to tonight's agenda. However, I would like to call the board's attention to a request for an executive session under 4231-101I for litigation.
Thank you. Moving on to our special recognition. Today we get to recognize our school psychologist, Mrs. Tensmeyer.
Good evening, Board President Phillips, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. November 11th through 15th is designated as School Psychology Week in Washington, a time to recognize and celebrate the essential work school psychologists do to help students succeed and thrive. Tonight, I'm going to introduce Alicia Quackenbush, one of our Directors of Special Services, to share a few words.
In Pasco schools, our school psychologists are true champions of student success. They bring expertise in mental health, learning, and behavior, empowering our students to excel academically, socially, behaviorally, and emotionally. Through their dedication, they provide personalized learning assessments, behavioral analysis, and targeted interventions that address each student's unique needs and strengths. But their impact doesn't stop here. Pasco school psychologists also collaborate with teachers, families, and fellow educators to create a supportive network around every child, ensuring they have the tools they need to overcome challenges and achieve their full potential. This evening, I am honored to introduce the remarkable individuals who serve as school psychologists in Pasco. We have one of our school psychologists here, so I would like her to come forward. This is Gloria Nakawa, and she is a school psychologist at Robinson and Frost Elementary. I would also like to just list our other school psychologists. We have Vicente Acosta at Emerson and Chess Elementary, Jeanette Brumbaugh at Chiawana High School, Ellie Fernandez, Chiawana High School, Dwayne Franks, McClintock and Twain Elementary, Laura Fritz, McLaughlin Middle School, Marisol Cervantes, Longfellow and Captain Gray Elementary, Leland Graham, Pasco High School, Darren Hansen Whittier, Curie Elementary and the Early Learning Center, Jordan Jacobson, Three Rivers Elementary, Don Heineke, McLaughlin Middle School, Kendra McCullough, Three Rivers Elementary, New Horizons High School, and the Pasco Digital Learning Academy, Curtis Dolman, Livingston and McGee Elementary Schools, Stella Leatham, Pasco High School, Jean Lemon, Stevens Middle School, Candace Meineke, Columbia River and Franklin STEM Elementary, Christian Wutzke, Markham Elementary and Ochoa Middle School, and Joshua Mello, Reynolds Middle School. We deeply thank each of these exceptional professionals for the positive difference they make in the lives of Pasco students every day.
Can you guys grab a pen for her? Thank you for coming for that. We are so grateful that we had at least one psychologist here that we could thank in person, and we do appreciate all that you do for our schools and for our students especially. Moving on to audience comments, just a reminder that comments can only last 2 minutes. We have this lovely little cone over here that is green when you have during the first minute and a half of your comments. In the next 30 seconds, it turns yellow, and that is a signal to you that you need to wrap up your comments. And then when it's red, then you need to have your comments over. Please, if you can, please cut off your comments before it turns red or just as it turns red. I really hate to stop people. So please try to follow that 2-minute mark. Online, Mr. Garrett will show the comments, and the comments are automatically turned off after 2 minutes. So please, if you have a comment, please approach the dais, and please state your name and your affiliation with the district. Do we have any audience comments this evening?
Good evening, President Phillips, members of the board, Superintendent Whitney. My name is Lorraine Landon, and I serve as Special Programs Coordinator. I have with me tonight our Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee Sergeant at Arms, Mrs. Lopez, who has a special announcement for you. Mrs. Lopez will speak in Spanish, and Delia Vargas will interpret for her. Thank you.
Buenas noches, Presidente Phillips, miembros de la Junta Directiva, Superintendente Whitney. Mi nombre es Jacqueline López.
Good evening, President Phillips, board members, Superintendent Whitney. My name is Jacqueline Lopez.
Mientras hablo, Miss Lorraine les entregará una tarjeta para que guarden la fecha para la conferencia.
As I speak, Lorraine will hand you a card to save the date for our conference.
El Comité Consejero de Padres PAC desea invitarles a nuestro evento más emocionante del año, el sábado 7 de diciembre, de 11 a.m. a 3:30 p.m. en la Galería Estudiantil de la Escuela Pasco High.
The Parent Advisory Committee would like to invite you to our most exciting event of the year on Saturday, December 7, from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Pasco High School Student Mall.
Todas las familias con niños que participan en los servicios del programa bilingüe están invitadas a asistir a la conferencia anual de PAC Bilingüe.
All families with children who participate in bilingual program services are invited to attend the annual PAC Bilingual Conference.
Habrá actividades para toda la familia. Los estudiantes de pre-K a quinto grado tendrán actividades proporcionadas por los maestros del Distrito Escolar de Pasco.
There will be activities for the whole family. Pre-K through 5th grade students will have activities provided by the Pasco School District teachers.
Los estudiantes de la escuela intermedia y preparatoria tendrán sesiones de desarrollo de liderazgo que incluirán oradores invitados de la comunidad. Los padres podrán elegir entre varias sesiones que les ayudarán a apoyar mejor a sus hijos para que tengan éxito en la escuela. Habrá una feria de recursos y las escuelas proporcionarán exhibiciones de ATP para que los padres puedan estar al tanto de las oportunidades de participación a nivel escolar. El evento será en español, sin embargo, se proporcionará traducción al inglés de ser necesario. Esperamos que considere la posibilidad de visitarnos.
Middle school and high school students will have leadership development sessions that will include guest speakers from the community. Parents will be able to choose from several sessions that will help them better support their children to succeed in school. There will be a resource fair, and schools will provide ATP displays so that parents may be aware of the opportunities for participation at the school level. The event will be in Spanish. However, English translation will be provided if needed. We hope you will consider visiting us.
En nombre del PAC, les agradecemos todo lo que hacen para apoyar a nuestro distrito. Gracias.
On behalf of PAC, we are so grateful for all you do to support our district. Thank you.
Thank you. We did double the time on that one since half of it was in English and half was in Spanish. So I want you to know that. Thank you for this invitation. Is there anyone else who has any comments this evening? Okay, moving on to, Mr. Garrett, do we have anybody online who has any comments? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have personnel, warrants, overnight student travel for student board representatives to attend the WASDA conference in Spokane, Washington. Out-of-state overnight student travel for Chihuahua High School Ski Club to Brunage Ski Resort in McCall, Idaho. Out-of-state overnight student travel for Chihuahua High School Ski Club to attend Mount Bachelor Ski Resort in Bend, Oregon. Overnight student travel for Chihuahua Ski Club to attend both Stevens Pass Ski Resort and Mission Ridge Ski Resort in Wenatchee, Washington. 2024-2025 school-wide improvement plans. Sageview High School construction change order number 13. I would entertain a motion.
Board President Phillips, I move that we pass the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Can I have a roll call vote, please, Mrs. Richardson?
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Dr. Norbert?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to, there are no action items this evening. There is no extended study session, so we are moving on to reports. We have a Superintendent Action Council report by the Student Board representatives.
Good evening, Ms. Superintendent Whitney and members of the board. I'm one of your student school board representatives. My name is Danica Garena. Today, me and my other student school board representatives will be presenting to you an update on the Student Action Council that happened in October. Beginning with a update on the Student Voice program. So this wasn't the main focus of our last advisory council, but we did touch on this topic. It pretty much remained the same among students. They do feel like they, one, got a better understanding of what their role is. They serve as our student voice. So they have something to present to the board. They understand that we will bring it to you, we will present, and we will come back. So they understand their role. They kind of got a little bit more of understanding of our role and how we connect. And then we retouched on the topic of multi-year terms and adding new representatives in for the new high school, and it pretty much stayed the same as last year. There is a pretty big idea of, oh, we kind of agree, that makes sense. Obviously, there's always people who aren't going to agree, but for the most part, the student board or Student Action Council did agree with that idea.
We discussed with the principals. The principals the principals had a presentation prepared about the different electronic device policies at both of the comprehensive high schools and the new comprehensive high school. They presented their presentation and then took questions from students on this presentation. They answered a lot of questions, and we'll have a later update at the 10:23. Not the 10:23. Is it the next school board meeting? Is it December, the next school board meeting that we have the presentation on?
Yes.
Okay. The next school board meeting, there will be a presentation on the electronic device policy of the high schools. They answered a lot of questions, and people seem to come to more of an understanding on that topic.
And then at the last presentation from the Student Action Council, the board still had some questions about Minga. So I took that back to Pasco High, met with my assistant principals, and to give the board a little bit of a better understanding of Minga. And so Minga is for more of campus management, where information management, such as Power School and programs like that, it's used to get across news to students, whereas there'd be different sources of news coming in through their email, text, just other different a lot of paper news around the school are given to students, along with ID cards, as you can see here. That's my ID card. I have my off-campus lunch sticker, which is a privilege at Pasco High. If there's a certain amount of tardies, you can get that taken away. And then to see if you can leave at lunch, I have WSU Running Start, so I have both lunches. And then my WSU Running Start badge. And then along with that, integrated into the Minga program, there's FlexiSkedge, which is our intervention time. And so it kind of coheres the system so you don't have to have two different programs. So FlexiSkedge is into Minga now, and you can sign up for your, like at Chiwana Talk Time, we have cohort. It's the same thing, but you can sign up for your classes through the Minga app now, instead of having to go to a different program, different password, just more information to lose. And then along with the more ID stickers, so there's a Benton Franklin transit sticker that can be put on there and used as a bus pass, which I think is very, very well. And then it's also more cost effective because there's not being plastic IDs printed out, and there's no need for that. Along with a points and reward system, teachers are able to give points or reward students for attending events by just scanning their ID. Like, for example, at what did we have last week? The Portrait of a Graduate program. Mrs. Smith, or Dr. Smith was there, and she just scanned my Minga, gave me a couple points for being there. And it's just as easy as that, instead of having a more complicated way to reward. And also campus security. Everyone comes in through a set of two entrances at Pasco High School, and they have to show their ID. They show their ID at the door. They get let through. You have to show your ID to leave. And trespasses, like from last year, there were about 40 in the last school year, and so far this year there's been only one. So there's a big improvement in campus security along with that. Is there any questions from the board or in regards to Minga?
I don't have a question, just a comment. This last week, my son is a senior, and I had never been on Minga, but he needed to submit his senior picture for the yearbook, and so I'm like, open up the Minga app, and he gave me his phone, and I was surprised to see it looks a lot like social media as you're like scrolling through like all the announcements the school puts out, which is nice because that seems to be like what we're all familiar with, and you can like go back and look at the date that it was published. It doesn't disappear, and so it was once I found, and I could search because he didn't know where it was, so I searched like senior pictures, and then like the announcement came up, and then I was able to find the address where I needed to submit it. So it was really user-friendly and seemed like the way the application is laid out and formatted, like easy to use.
Any other questions?
So that was, you did that on Minga? Okay. Because it says campus management versus information management, so it's kind of both then a little bit.
It seemed like there was like announcements sent out to the kids so they can just like look on their Minga and read the announcements that the principals and staff are putting out. Can teachers also post on Minga, or is that more for like Parent Square?
Teachers can post on Minga through like their groups they've created, so they can add students. So say for their class, they can add all their students in their class to a group and then post to that. And same with sports teams. That's the sports coach can add them to their Minga group, post in there. But most of the like information in it comes from like our principal, assistant principal, kind of higher up management, and that can come from anywhere from pre-sale for homecoming tickets or notices to seniors to buy the cap and gown before it ups in price.
So is this on your computer then, or is it an app?
It's an app, and it's also on the computer. So for students that don't have cell phones, at the student or the check-ins at the two entrances, there's security guards there, and they can type in their ID and get in that way, or some students will pull up their computers with their Minga passes on there. Any other questions? And our next meeting for our Student Action Council will be January 29th, 2025.
Thank you. Thank you for getting back to us with all the information that we tasked you with. We really appreciate that. We have some great information to go with through this. I do have one more question about the 4 representatives. In the past, we have had one student from all of the comprehensive high schools, and we've always been able to fill that seat, but we haven't always been able to fill the Delta/New Horizons seat. Did your student council even talk about the possibility of not filling that seat?
We didn't address the possibility of not filling that seat. We did, however, address the possibility of having our 3 comprehensive high schools having reps, and then that 4th one would be alternating between Delta, Horizon, and Orion. That way, if that was the concern, at least you'd have more applicants and more people willing to do that, and you could just switch them out year to year. But it also just helps fill that seat more.
Did the students have an opinion on either like just having 3 if there weren't applicants for those 3 schools, or having an extra one for one of the other comprehensive high schools?
From what I remember and what I understand is we pretty much wanted it to be that 4th seat to be those other high schools like New Horizons, Delta, and Orion. So if we come across the problem where we don't have anybody applying across those 3 schools, then I feel like that would be a problem we address then. But from our standpoint, I don't feel like that would be a problem because we have enough students at those 3 schools combined to fill the application process.
Hopefully. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to our next report, we have Pasco School District Artificial Intelligence Project Report, and this is kind of piggybacking off of our study session that we had on 4:30 that was on AI, and that is going to be given by Ms. Mira Goebel. Oh, one really briefly, because these are two totally different things. Are there any comments on the students, what the students presented today? If you would like to make a comment, you are welcome to go up to the dais. The podium. Okay, Mr. Garrett, is there any comments? All right, thank you. Ms. Goebel, sorry.
It's okay. Good evening, Board President Phillips, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. The integration of artificial intelligence in education presents an exciting opportunity for our district. Tonight's report highlights the foundational work underway in AI as a teaching and learning tool, with a focus on our commitment to responsible implementation and professional development and really adherence to the state's guideline. The purpose of tonight's report is to really update you the progress and plans for AI as a teaching and learning tool in our school district. Our initial focus has been on AI use by teachers and administration. We kind of call this as our exploration year, with an emphasis on developing effective and meaningful application that enhance both the instruction and administrative tasks, as you heard Jeff talk about during study session. Another key component is our commitment to compliance with the Office of Superintendents of Public Instruction, OSPI, guidelines and strict privacy regulations. This is essential for safeguarding students' data and ensuring that all AI tools are implemented ethically and responsibly. We have a group of teachers who are innovators and early adopters who are sort of forging the path before us, who has taken a lead role in exploring the direction of this project by vetting potential AI tools and trying it out and creating professional learning resources and attending workshops. They actually spent all morning with Jeff today around this. The teacher-led approach fosters ownership and really build capacity across the district because they're the users of the tool. Ensuring that AI tools are practical and are actually beneficial for classroom leads. Finally, my goal tonight is to really outline the next steps for policy updates and eventually the potential use of AI tool for students. As we continue to evaluate these tools, we will revise the instructional technology policies we currently already have to support the AI as a learning tool, ensuring comprehensive vetting for educational sustainability, suitability, privacy, and data security. To give you some background information, the foundation of our district's project really is embedded in OSPI's Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence, AI guidelines. Which you heard Jeff talked about is one of the in the forefront and actually across the nation that is other states are modeling after, which really this AI guidelines prioritize really ethical and equitable and safe AI use within the educational settings. The guidance serves as a framework to ensure that AI tools and applications are designed and really deployed in a way that centers on human values and meets the unique needs of the students and teachers. Our focus on ethical AI use aligns with these recommendations, states' recommendations, ensuring really responsible engagement with the technology. A significant goal of our project also is to develop students' AI literacy, equipping them with the knowledge and skills needed to navigate the understand the AI role in educational setting and in their future and in life. By fostering AI literacy, we prepare students for future careers and responsible digital citizenship, which is increasingly vital in today's technology-driven world. Becoming a critical thinker in this is just as important as anything else. Providing professional development for our educators is another central priority. As AI tool evolves, so do the skills needed to use these tools effectively in an educational context. This empowers teachers to make informed decisions about AI use when and when not to use them, and also ensures that they can integrate AI in ways that enhance learning and really supports classroom goals. Our approach also incorporates the human-centered design principles, ensuring that AI solutions are aligned with best practices in teaching and in learning by putting students and teachers at the center of AI integration. Additionally, the new revised ELA, the English Language Arts Standards from OSPI, actually include now the components of media literacy and digital citizenship, reinforcing our commitment to preparing students for responsible digital engagement. So to give you a little bit of kind of a context, across Washington State, I know you heard Jeff talk about what's happening across the country. Across Washington State, one of our teachers actually did some research. Actually called up school districts that were similar in our size. So there's quite a momentum in AI incorporation within K-12 education. A majority of large districts comparable in enrollment size as Pasco, I think we're like 18th in that size, have already embraced AI as a classroom tool. With 24 out of 35 schools that we actually researched, so 69% of the largest school districts in the state of Washington permitting students to use AI in various educational applications. This trend indicates a growing recognition of AI's potential to increase learning and really to equip students with essential skills for their future. Locally, we actually did some calling around. AI integration is also advancing steadily. Among nearby school districts, including Kennewick and Richland School District, 9 out of 14, so 64% or so, have introduced AI tools into their classrooms, reflecting a regional commitment to staying current with educational technology trends. So in this current year, for the 24-25 school year, our district is really concentrating on using AI as a teaching tool to elevate instructional practices. This approach emphasizes really careful exploration and vetting of AI resources to ensure they genuinely enhance teaching while aligning with our educational goals and our mission. A core component of the project is the involvement of this, I call them the early adopters and innovators, teachers who are in the front and really providing us with critical feedback with AI tools effectiveness, which tools are working well, which are not, and they're attending workshops and really helping us determine what's the best. Their firsthand experience guide our understanding of how AI can effectively and responsibly integrate it. To extend this knowledge across the district, these pioneering teachers are developing professional learning sessions and offering to interested teachers and to come to try out as a teaching tool. We are also committed to learning from other districts and experts who have successfully implemented AI tools in education. In fact, in our recent attendance, we went to a Portrait of the Graduate a conference in Indianapolis, and as we're learning about how districts are using Portrait of the Graduate, a lot of districts have using this AI as a platform, and so we actually learned quite a bit, even though that's not why we attended. We actually learned quite a bit about how other districts like across the country is using that. To ensure that the AI integration aligns with both state and federal standards, we'll be revising our instructional technology policies to responsibly incorporate AI within our district. These updates will be crafted with focus on the OSPI's principles of safety, equity, and transparency, and really underscoring our commitment to ethical and secure AI use in educational setting. So several compliance that we will be considering. We're looking for AI tools that are FERPA compliant. That's the Family Educational Rights Privacy Act. They're AI that are also COPPA compliant and SEPA compliant. These are, you can see the acronyms, but any state-specific data privacy laws that we will be considering as well. We're also exploring, I know Jeff Utek talked about it, there's ethical use of AI, there's also ethics of AI. And so I think the students and the staff need to understand what they are. So again, we're being responsible user of this potentially powerful tool and other considerations. So in terms of AI tool vetting process, it's a collaborative effort that relies on experts. And like I know Jeff has given us, here's some tools. You don't need 1,000. You have 2 or 3 that it can really do the work. And that it varies on the grade bands. So we're testing those out. And the teachers are testing various AI tools to access their applicability for classrooms, and with a focus on really enhancing both teaching efficiency and student learning outcomes. To support district-wide implementation, these early adopters are also developing professional development sessions, as I talked about, and they're testing them out. I know Jeff actually spent time with them on how to effectively design PD that they can then use with their teachers as well. Compliance is a key priority throughout this whole vetting process. We are focused on selecting tools that are fully adhered to privacy laws, including FERPA, and uphold responsible AI practices. By emphasizing compliance and ethical standards, we're creating really a framework for AI integration that meets the regulatory requirements as well, that supports safety, productive learning, and environment for all students. So what are our next steps? So as we move forward with AI implementation in our district, we have outlined several critical next steps to support this integration. So first, we're really, like I talked about this year, is we call it an exploration year. So we have a teacher committee who's really in the tools and exploring, but we actually have a district level committee with the principals who's really passionate about AI. And we've actually introduced use of AI with our principals in how they can use as part of their school improvement process. And they've really enjoyed learning that, so they're actually teaching each other. And so by this spring, we're okay not being in the front. We want to be like a little bit middle to back and let others learn from their mistakes, and we're going to learn from their mistakes. And we're going to be looking at some model. WASA has a model policies that we'll mirror after. So our goal is to have the policy and the procedure updates by this spring. And really thinking about establishing timeline of a potential student integration, what that will look like. I'm really assessing the readiness to introduce AI as a learning tool. Part of what OSPI has developed, there's a checklist to the readiness to benefit, and we're literally checking them off. So we really want to go slow to go fast, because this is really an important tool, it's a powerful tool. Because of that, we also want to be very responsible in the way that we actually incorporate into our current teaching and learning practice. So that is end of my presentation for tonight. I'm sure there's more to come as we pass beyond the exploration stage this year. So are there any questions that I can entertain?
So you had mentioned policy. Is that's policy that, of course, is going to come before the board and will be, or are you talking more procedural?
Well, it could be both. We already have an instructional technology policy, so we're not rewriting it. We'll be updating it based on how we're going to incorporate AI. So there could be potential policy updates, or some could be procedure updates, depending on, again, what tools that we select and how we're going to actually roll out.
How do teachers feel about this so far?
The ones who's using it love it. And I know you kind of saw the glimpses of today. We had workshops today. I know principals who is using it in a way that it is, I'm going to speak for myself. I use AI daily. It has made my work so much more efficient. It is a great thought partner for me. And so I use it in my professional setting, in my personal life. So I know the teachers who actually use it, there's some that are chomping at the bit, and it's like, can we just get on with this and let the students use it? There's some that is like, I don't know, right? There's a continuum when anything new comes, so we need to honor where they are, and it's really all about readiness to benefit.
The kids are already using it.
They are using it. It's when you're backing up and the camera comes on in your car, that's AI, right? So I mean, it's in our world. My Roomba is an AI. It knows how to map my back in my house. So.
So did you respond with that with the teachers? Are they able to use that in their classrooms then?
Teachers can use them, yeah. So that's what some of the PD that we are providing. Teachers can use AI tools because it's just accessible.
How many,
like ChatGPT, for an example.
How many teachers were involved in the
pilot
training
here?
today?
Oh, today?
Yes.
No, we kind of narrowed today's training to our teachers who's actually in our AI project team. So there's about 7 or 8 that who are kind of key from actually all high schools. We actually have a middle school person that who's actually leading this. And for the district team, that we actually have some principals involved. There's a teacher liaison that who actually serves in both.
So do you have a plan on how you're going to train the teachers?
Not yet. Well, that's one of the things that we will be developing once we actually know what AI tools we're going to use. That's part of our phases. For training all the teachers, we don't have that plan yet. That's pretty more comprehensive, yeah.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, this is fascinating. A whole new world, and it's going to open a lot of doors for our kids. So we want to do this ethically, and we want to do it safely. So I appreciate you bringing up those points in this presentation. So thank you for this presentation. This was really valuable, I feel like, for the whole board today, both the study session and this presentation. Thank you.
I just think it's an important thing, and we need to make sure we handle it wisely and we train our kids properly, because, as I was telling them earlier, technology, especially new technology, can be a little bit like fire. Fire can be very useful, or it can be very destructive. And this is a very powerful tool. And so we've got to be careful that we use it wisely and that we train our kids to use it wisely.
I 100% agree with you, right? Tool is as good as the user. And that's why I think the OSPI's guidelines is a human-centered, that it is not letting AI do the work, but is with. And I think one of the things that Jeff says, a garbage in, garbage out. So what is it putting in is a product that you're going to get. And one of the things that I think that I've been really impressed with, I think it was during our first Portrait of the Graduate student engagement session. They watched the video. It was, everything was just robots, and students were not scared by that. And one of the things they said is like, what we have is an emotional intelligence that this does not. And they know it, and they know the power that as humans that we have. So it's encouraging that they understand it. And I think we do need to definitely teach a digital citizenship with this, with anything that we do, actually. We had to do with it when we first introduced calculators, right? Using calculators as solving equation is different than using it to add numbers, right? So I think knowing how and when to use it as a learning tool. If there are any questions, thank you. More to come.
Are there any audience comments? Mr. Garrett? Okay, moving on to our capital facilities plan. Is there Sarah Thornton?
Good evening, Board President Phillips, board members, and Superintendent Whitney. Tonight, we are going to begin laying the groundwork for the district's update, 2024 update to our capital facilities plan. The capital facilities plan is our mechanism that allows the district to collect impact fees. So it's a very important part of our overall facilities planning efforts. And we will be asking the board to take action on our capital facilities plan update in January after the first of the year. And the attorney that we've worked with in the past, Denise Stiffarm, will be back to walk you through the plan itself and the fee formula. So tonight we are approaching the report as a frequently asked questions to lay the groundwork for you before Denise is with you in January. And I'll start by reminding the board where we've been when it comes to the capital facilities plan and impact fees. As you know, over the last 20 years, the population in Pasco has grown significantly. Even recently, our population continues to grow. The graphic here shows you that Pasco was the number 8 in 2022, was named the number 8 boom town in the nation the website Smart Asset. Even now in 2024, the rate of growth in Pasco is outpacing our neighbors in Kennewick and Richland. And until the COVID-19 pandemic, the population growth in our city and in our county also included with it a significant increase in the in student enrollment. And so during the height of that growth, we were adding virtually the equivalent of a building full of students per year, and we simply could not keep up with housing those students in our facilities through bonds and through the normal capital facilities planning process. And so these impact fees, and I'll talk more about that in a minute as far as how we got here, but that all to say that the impact fees that we've received through the capital facilities plan and with the city's partnership through their impact fee ordinance have really been critical to how we have managed that quick enrollment growth. The impact fees have been used in a way that has allowed us to house students in the school that is closest to where they live, as opposed to having to find places for them in other areas of the district. And they've also reduced the burden on our taxpayers by applying impact fees to the cost of bonds to reduce the overall bond costs. So we really are, I'll start by saying we're incredibly grateful to the city for their support and for the flexibility that having impact fees has provided, and then of course to the community for continuing to support capital facilities to and the building of educational spaces in brick and mortar for our students. So the purpose of this presentation, again, is to really answer some questions and to gather any questions that you as a board may have around our capital facilities plan and our impact fees, so that we can address them with the full report in January with Denise Stiffharm when she is here. And so we'll start with some basics about our capital facilities plan, with the first question being, why do we adopt a capital facilities plan? And like I said at the beginning, the capital facilities plan is a necessary component for the district to collect school impact fees. And this is a process that is contained in the state's Growth Management Act, which is a series of statutes that requires local jurisdictions, so cities and counties, to manage and plan for their population growth. To manage that growth, they are required to have what's called a comprehensive plan to ensure that there are adequate public facilities in the jurisdiction necessary to support that development. The Growth Management Act specifically focuses on public roads, parks, recreational facilities, and school facilities as critical public facilities that are needed to support growth. And so the Growth Management Act authorizes those cities and counties to collect impact fees to provide for those public facilities that are needed due to growth. So the school impact fees can be collected by that jurisdiction only if the school, in this case for school impact fees, has a capital facilities plan approved by its board and also adopted by the jurisdiction or the city and incorporated into that comprehensive plan. So this is just a little graphic illustrating how that works. As a school district, you as a board approve our capital facilities plan. We take that to the city of Pasco. They adopt our capital facilities plan as part of their comprehensive plan, which is then compliant with the Growth Management Act, and then the city collects the designated impact fees and transmits those to the district. So that's how that process works and why we have a capital facilities plan. Another frequent question that we get is, why do we seem to have two facilities plans? We have a capital facilities plan and a long-term facilities management plan. Are they the same thing? And the answer to that question is no. Our capital facilities plan, for purposes of the Growth Management Act and facilities planning, has a very narrow purpose. It's written to comply with the Growth Management Act, and it specifically identifies those capital projects that are related to new growth and that can be paid for from, in part, by impact fees, whereas the long-term facilities management plan has a much broader purpose. And it does include, well, it can include and does include new construction and new schools. It's also the plan that we use to plan for the replacement or improvement of aging facilities, our athletic facilities, and other similar projects. So one, the capital facilities plan is much more narrow in scope. They do work together, though, in our overall facilities planning strategy, and you will see projects identified in our capital facilities plan that are also part of our long-term facilities management plan, because the long-term facilities management plan is where we are planning for our future bond projects. And when it comes to projects that are paid for in part by impact fees under the Growth Management Act, those projects can't be paid for by impact fees alone. They have to also have a public funding component, or a component that would also be covered in the long-term facilities management plan. The district first adopted a capital facilities plan in 2011, and the recommendation to pursue impact fees and adopt a capital facilities plan came out of a community summit that was held, I believe in 2009 or 2010, to address that unprecedented growth that we'd seen in the community. In response to that, and in partnership, the City of Pasco adopted a school impact fee ordinance then in 2012. That ordinance provided the framework for the city to begin collecting impact fees on the district's behalf. They adopted they approved and adopted the district's capital facilities plan into their comprehensive plan at that time. And since 2012, we have updated our capital facilities plan with the city about every 2 years as required by the city's ordinance. We were off 1 year after COVID. And with the adoption or the update that we'll be providing to you in January, we will be back on that 2-year cycle. During that time, we have not requested any increases to the impact fees that were first set back in 2012. All right, so I'll pause for a minute if you have any questions about that, and if not, I'll dive into the impact fees.
So the current formula for the impact fees is from 2012, and that formula was adopted by the city based on guidance from the state.
Sure, and I'll talk about the fee itself in just a minute, in a way that might explain that a little bit better.
Is that all? Am I understanding so far?
So far, yes, and the fee itself is the fee itself is actually generated, but through a formula that is a state-adopted formula that changes based on our facilities needs, our student enrollment growth, and the number of unhoused students.
So we are eligible for this year, or to move forward with a new update?
We are working on that, and I'm gonna hit that at the very end of the presentations. Yeah. So under the Growth Management Act, impact fees are one-time charges. They are not a continuation. They're not charged continually to the same developer. They are one-time fees that are designed to help pay for new or expanded public facilities that are needed specifically because of development. They can only be assessed for capital facilities, and they can only be assessed for that which is necessary to serve that growth. And so examples of the way that we've used them in the past have been to purchase or relocate portable classrooms around the district and for land purchases. We are not authorized to collect impact fees directly. That has to come from the applicable jurisdiction, and so in this case, that would be the city of Pasco. Impact fees cannot be used for for maintenance and operations. Their use is highly restricted. They can only be used even for capital purposes for projects that are identified in that capital facilities plan, and so it's important that we update that on a regular basis to make sure that we're current. We also have to expend them within 10 years of receipt. And this is where the question about the formula comes in. And when Denise Stiffarm is here in January, she'll be able to walk you through the fee calculation in more detail. She is working with us right now to input the updated enrollment numbers, which are a critical driver of whether or not we will continue to qualify for a fee, Steve, to your question. But it is not a formula that we designed. It is a commonly accepted and used formula around the state. We don't collect impact fees from Franklin County because they have not adopted an impact fee ordinance or adopted our capital facilities plan. We've requested that they do so, and they've not taken action on that. We are able, however, under the state's Environmental Policy Act, or SEPA, we are able to mitigate impacts directly with developers for qualifying projects in the county. Not all projects, but those that are large enough to fall under SEPA. And we've been, we have continued to pursue what those we call mitigation fees with those developers in accordance with the policy that the board has adopted.
Should the county adopt impact fee ordinance, would that null and void the ordinance from the city, or would that just be for impact fees beyond city limits?
Beyond city limits, yeah. So our next steps with you as a board is to provide you with the updated capital facilities plan, which will include our updated capital facilities inventory. So we know that we're going to be bringing on Orion and Sageview High Schools. That, of course, will change the number of unhoused high school students and presumably eliminate the number of high school students who are unhoused at what we call unhoused in brick and mortar. It also incorporates our educational program standards and our updated enrollment projections and capacity analysis, which then feeds into that school impact fee calculation. And so here I will circle back to where we started at the beginning, is that the impact fee ordinance and the capital facilities plan was really born out of a very significant enrollment growth need, where when our community population was increasing, our student enrollment was increasing at essentially the same rate. What we've seen now since, essentially since the COVID-19 pandemic, is that our enrollment growth has flattened. And even though the community population continues to grow on a fairly steep upward trajectory, that has not correlated to the same rates of student enrollment growth that we were seeing before. And so our preliminary data would indicate that our impact fees over our next 2-year planning period would decrease from our current fees, with the possibility that we would not qualify to receive impact fees for single-family units, so standalone homes, and we would have potentially a reduction, a pretty significant reduction in fees for multifamily units. But we're still working on those details and working with Ms. Stiffarm on the formula, and so that's what we'll be bringing to you in January. Can I answer any questions or gather questions from the board that we can work on with Ms. Stiffarm?
So you said at one point that we did not have the capability of us as the school district doing the fees if the city didn't want to do it, but then you come back and said that there was a possibility through a different avenue. Is that correct?
Yeah, and what that is, Steve, is the, get to it. There are two mechanisms that we can use to essentially mitigate growth and development. One is under the Growth Management Act and that impact fee process. If the city had not adopted their impact fee ordinance, or if they were to rescind their impact fee ordinance, we would still be able to adopt a slimmed down capital facilities plan, as it were, and mitigate with individual developers then, both in the city and in the county, for qualifying projects.
Can you tell me what a qualifying project would be?
It has to do with the size of the project and the number of number of lots and the size of the lots. I can get that information to you. Smaller projects under, with I believe less than 5 lots typically don't qualify, but the larger projects, the larger developments do.
Assistant Superintendent Thornton, under SEPA, what entity collects the mitigating fee?
We collect that fee directly from the developer. So that is a process where through the SEPA process, we file our objection and appeal with either, well, in this case, the county, because the city has impact fees. And then we work with the developer to mitigate, to collect a fee that would mitigate the cost of that development for us, and then we notify the jurisdiction that that's been satisfied and they can continue to move on through that SEPA process.
But doesn't the city collect the ones through the city?
The city collects the ones through the city right now, that is correct.
So, but under SEPA, we can collect the fee for qualifying projects directly from the developer.
Yes, in the county. We don't do that currently with the city because they have the impact fee ordinance, yes.
Can you tell me what the total fees accumulated would be typically for a year?
On average, we collect between $2 to $2.4 million per year in impact fees, and we've used those to purchase property. We've used those to add classrooms, portable classrooms, move portables, but that has been the average collection each year.
And how much under SEPA are we collecting from the county or from outside of the city?
I'd have to go back and break that down, Dr. Kennedy, because the way that we are, the city is assisting with that collection right now because of the way they're making it a condition of hooking up for water. So they're requiring that the developers mitigate with us, and the city is essentially collecting that fee for us. So it's a little bit harder to break out exactly when we get that transmittal from the city, what's coming from mitigation and what's coming from the city.
The irrigation that is on county
Correct.
land, not city land.
Correct.
So is that in addition to residential developments in the county, or is that, is the city collecting that? Is that just purely like water hookups and utility
Yes.
hookups? That's not including county residential developments?
Correct. And that we do collect separately, and that's something that we can bring for you in January to break that out in more detail so you can see that.
Is there a benefit in having the county, or having the city, collecting them from the county as well, impact fees, instead of doing it through the SEPA process?
It's a benefit to us because it certainly streamlines the process for both the developer and for the district. It makes for a very predictable process. When the SEPA mitigation process just takes a little bit longer and can be less predictable for the developer potentially, at least through the impact fee process, that fee is set, whereas it could be variable through the SEPA process.
Is there a difference in fees that could be collected?
There could be. We have not exceeded, so one of the things that we've done in our impact fees is we have applied several discounts in the formula to those fees. We have also, in the SEPA mitigation process, applied those discounts to the fees that we've charged to developers, and we've essentially extended those same discounts to them. We're not required to do that. So, again, for consistency's sake, we have, but that's not a requirement.
You need something from us to move on? This was just informative?
This was just informative. If you have questions that come up or anything in particular that you want to make sure that we address with Denise when she's here in January, just let me or Michelle know, and we'll make sure that we copy that in the report, or cover that in the report, rather.
One additional question. I know that impact fees have been a topic at city council meetings in Pasco. Is there any kind of concern that the city might rescind the ordinance for impact fees completely?
I mean, as a governing body, they certainly would have the authority to do that if they chose to. I've not heard specifically from the city that is something that they're considering doing, no.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one more quick question. So back in 2011 it was, so there was a committee that got together to discuss the impending growth and what to do. Is that something we've considered reconfiguring, reestablishing to look at whether or not they think that that's still, the fact that our growth, our enrollment growth is leveling off.
Sure.
Is that something we've considered?
Yeah, there've been a variety of committees that have met since then to look at long-term facilities planning. The most recent iteration resulted in the current long-term facilities management plan that the board approved. Gosh, it's been a few years now, but that is scheduled for an update and a refresh, I believe, later this year. So including community members in that continual planning process has always been something that we've strived to do.
But specifically around impact fees, though?
No, not specific to the question of impact fees that I'm aware of, Steve. Yeah.
Have we done anything to look at whether the number of school-age children is increasing and we're just not receiving them here and we're flat right now? Or are the kids not being born? Or, they're just not there? And we're just getting influx of older people. that's, that's just one of the questions that would be interesting just to know.
I know that the birth rate in Pasco's down 20 or 25%, so we're not having as many children born. Pasco is raising, it's still growing, but Pasco has to grow by 20 or 25% in order to make up for the loss of those kids, which I think is why we're about level, if that makes sense, because our birth rate's way down, but we still have a lot of move-ins, and that makes it level.
The birth rate reduction is not an anomaly specific to Pasco. It's happening nationally, so it's not an anomaly that's happening just here.
In fact, it's less in Pasco than it is nationally. Our birth rate is down not as much as the rest of the state and the rest of the nation.
Assistant Superintendent Thornton, could you provide the demographic data in January about the population growth? I assume they're from the Office of Financial Management.
We get them from a variety of different sources to try to get as much data as possible in making the plan, so we will definitely have that for you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mrs. Thornton? I do want to reiterate to the board how important it is that we get these kinds of questions to Mrs. Thornton before we get this report in January. So if you do have questions, don't hesitate to email those questions directly to Sarah. Do you want them to go through you about these impact fees?
Sarah and/or I, whichever's more
Yeah, or
convenient for the
both.
board.
So please do send those over so that those can be fielded before that board meeting. It will be really helpful to the process and really helpful to the presentation, so that it has the information that the board needs to be able to help us to understand this better. Does that make sense?
I did also want to clarify, while Assistant Superintendent Thornton hasn't heard directly from the City Council about their support or non-support of impact fees, it has been raised at a couple of City Council meetings. Sarah and I can get those dates for you, and I would encourage you as board members to go and watch those City Council meetings.
Yes, I've heard that there is a possibility. If the city of Pasco did stop impact fees, we would still be able to collect them through the other mitigating means, yeah.
Through SEPA?
So there's still a way. It just makes it more difficult and more time consuming for us.
For President Phillips, one other question. Hypothetically speaking, of course, if the city did rescind its ordinance and we operated under the authority under SEPA, how are those fees then going to be collected? Will the city then still use the water or other infrastructure? How do we get the money?
Sure, we would be working directly with the developers. If the city were to rescind the ordinance, they would no longer be authorized to collect on our behalf. So we would be working directly with the developer.
And we have enforcement ability we give them, is that on the bill that we have?
Sure, we record we enter into a SEPA mitigation agreement with the developer, and that is filed with the deed, so that is it's enforceable through the continued ownership of that property.
What is their motivation to agree to those impact fees?
I'm sorry?
What is their developer's motivation to agree to those impact fees?
So the district essentially objects through their SEPA approval process, and so it potentially can lengthen their timeline for development. It could potentially hold up the process while we go through the SEPA appeals process if needed.
So is the district just have to be aware of what development's going on so that we get involved in that process? Because if we don't do that, then the developer essentially doesn't have to pay if we don't go through the, okay.
Yes, and the jurisdictions are required under SEPA to provide notice to the various local entities, and so we do for qualifying projects, we do receive those SEPA notices.
In addition to the notice that's required, they're also, it's listed on the Department of Ecology's website. So we as an entity would then be checking the Department of Ecology's website for cross-reference.
Just real quick, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So does that just create more administrative burden on the district to be, okay.
And then Superintendent Thornton, when we lodge our objection to the developer, if the developer refuses to pay the fee under SEPA, is that enforcement action done through the Superior Courts or through another, what body does that enforcement action happen?
Since we have not had to go through that enforcement process, I'm going to ask Denise when she's here in January to answer that question for you, because she's going to be able to provide you more details than I could. There could be an agency enforcement mechanism, and it would go through Superior Court. So there are a couple different avenues there, but she can give you more details on that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? What about our representatives? No comments from our representatives? Thank you for coming. Thank you for enlightening on this. We really appreciate your work with this, and we're looking forward to hearing more from Denise. Moving on to future agenda items. Oh, wait, sorry. Are there any comments from our audience? And Mr. Garrett? All right, thank you. Ms. Whitney?
So our next board meeting is immediately following our WASA conference, so we've designated that as a board retreat. We are changing the format of our board retreat slightly in that in the past, the student board representatives have not participated necessarily in the board retreat. However, this year we have invited them to participate in the retreat in lieu of them doing a board presentation. If the board recalls, the student board representatives used to have to come back and present to the board about what they learned. Instead, we're going to invite them to participate with you in the retreat to debrief what they learned. The student board representatives are already in front of you almost monthly with their Student Action Council reports, and so I think this helps relieve them from the burden of another presentation, but also I think will enrich the dialogue that you'll get to have with them about what they learned. So that is a different format suggested by board officers, and I'm just really excited to try it. I think it was a really genius idea, and I think the students will add a lot to the retreat. So that will be the 26th. Then on December 10th, it will be a high school program or a high school focus, including the high school principals from our comprehensive high schools being in front of you to talk about programming launches as we prepare to open the new high schools. And then during the board meeting itself is your opportunity to do your annual organizational meeting. And I did put some policy references in the future agenda items and asked Jenny to include them in the packet as backup so that you can study those in preparation for participating in that annual organizational meeting. As the student board representatives said, the building principals and student board representatives will be in front of you to talk about the cell phone policy. We'll also be talking about our plans for the staffing process as we open the new high schools. It is very complicated and multi-layered, and we want to make sure you know about that. And then Mira Goebel will be talking to you about some efforts that are happening around studying our current high school schedule model, which is a trimester schedule. The other high schools locally use what's a semester schedule. So we've been studying the impacts of the trimester schedule, and Mira will be giving us an update on that. So it's a pretty meaty board meeting in December that has a real high school focus to it, which is necessary because the ball will start moving very quickly in January around starting, parents are getting communications about our new high school opening, staffing will start happening, things are going to start happening in operationalizing opening our new school. So really excited about that.
Superintendent Whitney, will that staffing report include extracurricular activities such as sports and music, and how that is going to look with the new boundaries I know there's been some concerns from Pasco High staff on how those extracurriculars are looking with new boundaries. And if it's not addressed, is it in a schedule to be addressed, or could I propose it for a future agenda item?
Yeah, let's talk about where it might best fit. We can absolutely talk about it. We just need to figure out where it best fits in the cadence of these presentations. I do have a meeting with WIAA tomorrow morning about Pasco High specifically. So there could be, I think there's some places where that conversation could fit in. So absolutely, we can talk about it. We just need to figure out where.
Okay, are there any other future agenda items that any of the board members would like to hear?
I guess it sounds like maybe in the future there's going to be one on cell phone policy. Is that right?
On December 10th, the student board representatives and the high school principals will co-present a session for you that's based on the conversation they had in Student Action Council.
All right, moving on to communications. Mr. Norberg, would you start us out?
So I've been doing more reading on AI and also cell phone use for students and stuff, and been listening to the book about the anxious generation and particularly learning about the effect of phones on kids. And it's pretty amazing what's in this book if you go through it. And it's really causing a lot of stress and anxiousness in our kids. And it's really changing even some of their development. And so there are some things that we can do, and that's why I brought up the cell phone policy. And also they talk about also the need for time for interaction between students, particularly the younger students, make sure that they have plenty of recess time to interact with the other kids. And so that's the other opposite side that they see as really as useful. I also have a couple books here with me. If anybody has interest, I can at least share them with you. One is The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Most people probably don't realize that we are in a fifth generation warfare and that it's affecting our kids. The way it's affecting our kids is through the social media. And there is people like the CCP that are trying to create divisiveness in our country. And if you think about how our country is divided, part of it is due to that. And then the second session in that is The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. And it talks about how do you become aware of what's going on and what can you do about it. And so those are just a couple resources that are out there that I encourage people to learn more about it. These particular ones came out by people who are at the highest levels in our U.S. government and retired. And so I just encourage you that it's a real thing, and we just need to be aware of it and to realize that our kids are in it and our families are in it, and it's part of the reason why we have so much divisiveness in our country. That's all I have.
I'll just keep it kind of brief. So I've been pretty busy the last couple weeks. Was able to go with Amy to tour the two new high schools, the comprehensive and the innovative high school. And Amy can probably speak more to that. The innovative high school is, of course, not very, it's getting there. It still has a lot of work left on it. So we were able to walk around and look at the structure, but as for the internals, it's not there yet. The comprehensive high school is coming along nicely. It's very close to being completed, enclosed completely, and it's just amazing to see the innovation versus what I remember in high school versus what is now. And of course, even walking through Chiawana and then walking through this new high school, it's amazing to me. It almost feels like high schools have now become kind of more like colleges, and colleges are what they are, but I'm sure they're more advanced now. But it's a beautiful school, and I hope the community really enjoys that new school. And thanks to those who are putting in their time and effort. Thanks to those that were able to go around with us and walk through those schools and take their time to explain and answer our questions that we had. Was able to attend also a community event with John here, and it was good. It was a community event with the school district and to learn about voting and why that's important. And I really enjoyed that. I got to have some questions given to us by both parents and students / children there that were there, and also from the Scout Pack that was there. These children were some of them were part of the Scout group that was there, and children can ask some very interesting questions, and sometimes they're difficult to answer, and they're pretty, they want to know things that you wouldn't normally think that kids would want to know. But so we tried our best. John did a wonderful job, and he can speak more to that about answering those questions. Was also able to go with Amy to the, Amy, yes, you did show up. And so did Danica. You were there at the Team Pasco House, where the students from both Chiawana and Pasco helped build a home with various community partners. It's wonderful to see these students learning wonderful skills. Since it's kind of in my field, construction that I'm in, it was nice to see and just be around that environment again and see how the community partners from all over are interacting with our students and providing a lot of guidance that, real world experience and insight that they might not get just in a classroom from an instructor. So anyway, really enjoyed that. That's really all I have. It's just been busy.
Yeah, I think Director Simmons nicely summed up the event that he and I attended at Terra Vita 2 weeks ago. It was organized by the school district. Many thanks to Gracie Valle for doing a phenomenal job of moderating that event and facilitating the discussion. The League of Women Voters was there, and the Scout Troop 100 was there. And it was really nice for me because I used to live in Terra Vita and those townhouses, and it was great talking to the parents living there and the kids living there. It's a great community spot for us here in Pasco. And I always enjoy every opportunity to talk about being involved civically in our community, why elections are important. Trying to, and I think the League of Women Voters volunteers who were there did a really great job of trying to explain the initiatives that were on the ballot. And Director Simmons and I got to talk about the school district and what we do as directors and how we get elected, and just providing some civics education. And so it was a great event, and I really appreciate all the volunteers who organized it. And I will also like to put another plug in for the PAC conference. That's again happening on Saturday, December 7th from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at Pasco High School. I attended the PAC conference last year. I was just blown away by all of the information that was provided parents about financial aid, about Running Start, the college process, or other things. And again, I mean, I'm really glad that our district is engaging our community members so thoroughly, and this is one example of that. So I'll be attending the PAC conference again this year, and I encourage my colleagues on this dais, but also all of our community members to stop by the PAC conference on the 7th. Thank you.
This last Wednesday, I attended the Portrait of a Graduate event, the second one. It was pretty cool to see all of the community's opinions. I was at a table with 3 parents and another student. It was very interesting to go through all of the different things that they talked about, along with how Portrait of Graduate is going to work and how the community is going to be involved.
I did get the opportunity to go to the Team Pasco House, as mentioned earlier. I think it was a wonderful event, and it really helps shine a light on how much both of those courses, like the Pasco High and Chihuahua classes, do over the year, like throughout the year. I did find out that this was our 25th house, I believe, that we've done as a school district, and I really enjoyed being there, not only because I got to see and like learn about the program, but talking to the students from both Pasco and Chihuahua. Obviously, it's been a long time thing that both of our high schools we butt heads in sports and things, but it was really nice seeing them talk so highly of like the other class. So I got to talk to students and getting their opinions on how much this program does for them. It was a really impactful event, just being able to see how our district can provide opportunities for students who are interested in different like trades. And then I also want to shout out to our cross-country teams who did participate at state this year, and shout out to my best friend who won the MCC Girls Runner of the Year. So,
This past Wednesday, I was also, or 2 Wednesdays ago, I was able to attend the Portrait of a Graduate program. In my table, Dr. Smith was in there, a couple other teachers and administrators. It's really been cool to see like the progressions with the Portrait of a Graduate from the first session, or even from the study session we had about it to the first session we had, and then Student Action Council, and then this second session. It's really been fun to see as it progresses along, and also being able to like give feedback on that program along with other teachers or administrators being able to give their feedback, and it being actually taken in and then seeing that in the next session is really, I guess it puts like a positive feeling within you, kind of trusting that your voice and input is being heard and taken action to.
This last 3 weeks seems to have flown by so quickly, but I didn't really do much as a board member besides my usual agenda setting and attending the board meeting, and all the checking my email and all the things that I usually do. But I did attend the Chihuahua Walla Walla football game, and I have to say that was probably the first football game I've attended since I was in high school. I was with my partner whose son plays for Walla Walla, and I made him sit on the home side, and it was nostalgic in ways. But then we had to go and wait for his son to come out from the locker room, and I got to see like all of the maintenance people cleaning up all of the flags and collecting all of the clocks from the game, and just it was cold, and it was like 9 or 10 at night, and people working for the district in the cold and in the dark, and I just didn't realize, I just had this new appreciation for all of our maintenance workers who work sports, and all of the administration that shows up to chaperone and supervise, and all of the coaches that are out there working and it's the close of our football season, so and all fall sports, and so thank you to all of our coaches and all of those district employees who have worked fall sports and who worked those late cold nights.
Yes, Mr. Simmons actually kind of told what I had done these last couple of weeks. It has been a really fun week. Honestly, touring Orion High School and Sageview High School was an incredible experience. It really was an incredible experience. It was so fun to see the efficiencies and the thoughtfulness in building those buildings and in creating those buildings with really flexible spaces so as to save taxpayers money, as well as the pride that goes into building those. It was just fun to see these people who were the head of construction with their hard hats on, and every single hard hat that I saw with the people who were the heads of construction who were managing the project had the stickers for the high schools on their helmets. And I thought that was really impressive because some of these people don't have any tie to our district, but obviously great pride in this project and in the high school that they are building. And so that was really touching. And Mr. Satal actually took us out and took a great deal of time, and as did a couple of the construction managers. But it really helps us as school board members to be able to speak to the construction and some of the things that are happening. So we really appreciated that. Even just the efficiencies in the school lunchroom, just inches of moving this there or moving this there so that things are more efficient and better. And I just really appreciated this. Light buildings, full of natural light, beautiful buildings, and they use money-saving things throughout. And like I said, flexible spaces, that was wonderful. The Team Pasco was like a wall raising, so they literally took it from the foundation to they raised walls while we were out there. Each of the classes were able to raise some walls. So it was, I have never seen all of the kids involved at that level. I've been in these projects lots of different times, but there were, I don't even know how many hammers were out there. Those kids were pounding these nails in, pounding these walls together, putting on the particle board on the walls and raising these walls and getting them in place for these buildings. And it was really quite impressive. The media was there, and it was just fun to see these walls be raised by these young men and young women. So it was a great event.
So as promised, I am highlighting the communications that are going out around our new high schools. So this week, printed copies of the high school boundary letters are being mailed to families of our 8th, 9th, and 10th graders, welcoming them to their new high schools. These letters provide the same information that was shared with families through Parent Squared last week, and really as in our efforts are ensuring consistency and accessibility to the information for everyone. The letters include important details about signature programs being offered at each high school, as well as information on the zone transfer process and the lottery process for Orion and Delta High School. I also wanted to highlight last week on Friday, I hosted Soup with the Soup, which is a more formal opportunity for people, community members to come. I do a formal presentation and then stick around and answer questions. Assistant superintendents are there to help as well. This time, we had students from the Pasco Transition Center attend, which I believe is the second time they've done that, so it's become a tradition that they bring all of the students over from the Pasco Transition Center. And the students were very thoughtful participants in both offering their insights about educational programming in Pasco, but also asking some really great questions about programs and offering suggestions. And Mira Goebel presented about the Portrait of a Graduate work, and one of the questions she asked is, what was a skill you would like to have been taught when you were in school, or that you would like to see being taught? And one of our students that is in our low vision or blind program raised her hand, and she said, I would like people to be taught about empathy. And so it was a pretty amazing response to the question that I think illustrates the need for the work that we're doing. Everywhere I go and speak to kids, they speak very positively about the Portrait of a Graduate work and how they feel about being a part of it. So just really proud of that work, and just want to thank Mira and those efforts. I also just wanted to highlight, we've focused on, and you've heard a lot about our efforts to increase the number of certificated employees in our substitute pool as a way to solve our failed to fill problem that we were having. We're also extending that now to classified employees. So as district staff, we were offered the opportunity to help interview both classified and certificated substitutes. So I'm going to help out with that tomorrow from 9:30 to 11. I'm excited to dust off my interviewing skills and do that work again. I'm also participating tomorrow in a visioning session hosted by the Mid-Columbia Children's Museum Planning Group. So there's a group of people who are planning a children's museum in our area, and they've been very thoughtful and intentional about including superintendents and educational professionals in our area. Tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening is a board or the meeting where the student board representatives comes with their families for us to talk about traveling together for our conference next week. And then tomorrow evening is our first ambassador session right here at 6 o'clock. We'll talk about what does a superintendent do and what does public affairs do, and then just really launching that series of 6 to 8 sessions of community members. And then on Thursday, I was invited to keynote the Eastern Washington Student Council Retreat that's being hosted here. Bobby Butters, who is the leadership teacher at Chiawana High School, envisioned this event. So really excited. It's the first one of these kinds of events. So just really touched and humbled to be asked to keynote there tomorrow. So we are requesting an executive session under RCW 4231.10.1
Aye.
I for litigation. Thanks. I can't see without my glasses.